privacy is dead. We hear that a lot. And in some ways, it's true. Twitter is the only social network I use, and that's where I get my news from. And last year, this is what I saw on Twitter. So basically, People's Daily China, which is, I think, a newspaper in China, is reporting that surveillance tech is great. You can even use it in your classroom. You can use it for your kids. So they had deployed this a year ago in some of the classrooms in China. This is how it looks. This is the classroom. That's the guy talking, a teacher probably. What's the difference here? Well, the difference is the camera, obviously. There's a camera over there. Teacher gets a nice interface indicating what's happening in the class. I don't really speak Chinese, but apparently there are some parameters about what's happening. Since I don't speak Chinese, what's important is there's a different view of this data, and it actually shows, it analyzes the facial expressions of every student, and it shows which student is interested, which student is angry, which student is afraid, who is bored. Well, you know, it can help learning, but to me, as a person that is really concerned with privacy, all of this is quite alarming. So in some sense, it may be true that privacy is dead. But skeptics, or I would say positivists, would say, okay, that's just China being China. Let's look at something else, you know, because China is big, they have their own rules, not really a democracy. You know how they say, if the country has democratic in its name, it's not a democracy. Democratic People's Republic of China. Yeah, so let's look at something else. Let's look at suicide prevention. That's a cool feature by Facebook. So as it says here, for years, people had the ability to report. If you see something that looks like a cry for help inside the Facebook message, you can press report button, and the Facebook community team will come to the rescue. Well, now last year, they implemented machine learning. So now they read all your messages. They even have published how it looks, right? So this is the pseudo algorithm behind it. So you write so much sadness, and then it analyzes that text. So different parts of the text. It analyzes the comment, creates a classifier, and then there's an algorithm that looks at that and shows it to a human reviewer. So you're browsing, you're doing your Facebook, and then suddenly what you get is, instead of your page you're requesting, you get this. Need help? So this, even though the idea and the goal behind that is good, this is heavily disturbing to me. Luckily, I'm not a Facebook user, but that means that a machine is inside your head. But once again, that's nothing new, right? We know Facebook is scary and evil. That's okay. That's how they are. That's why some people don't use it. I hear it's a trend now. People unsubscribing from Facebook, quitting Facebook. So let's keep on doing that. So what about Europe? What about real life? Well, one of my favorite topics is CCTV. And I collected a bunch of posters from around. So they are photos of actual posters put there by the actual government. I could have found pictures where just a digital file online, but then you wouldn't believe me that it's real. So secure beneath the watchful eyes is one of the posters in the UK. Then of course we have more CCTV means more security for you.
This is such a normal.
Yes, that is absolutely 1984. And then of course my favorite one, we are watching you. Okay, that last one is fake. I shopped it a bit. What it actually said, we're watching out for you. But still, it's creepy as hell. So those are all real posters from the UK, from London. So that's one thing that's happening. CCTV was bad enough. I mean, they've been deploying it for some time. I come from Latvia myself. I've been doing some lobbying to protect people from aggressive CCTV, to give them options, amongst other lobbying for privacy and security. Now, I do have a slide which has something from this year, even though the presentation is about the last year. But no doubt, at the end of 2019, I'm going to create a presentation that's all of personal privacy in 2019. So I think that wasn't a thing a year before. Is this. So a guy in UK, once again UK, right? A guy was walking the street, and he was alerted that there's facial recognition going on. So not just CCTV, but camera with machine learning, with artificial intelligence algorithms that identifies who you are. And he pulled his sweater up to his nose. And he was detained by police and fined £90 for that, for doing that. For hiding his face, which is clearly legal. You can look up the article. So it actually says that Metropolitan Police says that it is legal under most circumstances to do that. It's not even suspicious under most circumstances. But then again, they were stopping everyone who was hiding their face from these cameras. And one of the people was even fined. Okay, but let's be reasonable. We've all known for the past 30 years that UK is an Orwellian dystopia. So let's look to the real EU, right? It should be okay. And it is a bit better. Visas, for example. I travel a lot, but before I mostly stayed within the EU. And one of the reasons was because I'm afraid of Trump. But the other reason is because I don't really feel like giving up my fingerprints or my facial scans to other governments. So I thought, wow, at least EU is cool, Schengen guys are cool. You can just come to the EU and you get your Schengen visa and you travel, no fingerprints, nothing like that. Well, I do happen to have quite a wide circle of international friends, and when making this presentation, they kindly informed me that, no, man, it's exactly the same. If you come to the EU from a different country, from the outside, they take your fingerprints, they scan your face. So to get a visa, you have to give up your biometry. And in some sense, I have accepted that as my fate. Since I do travel internationally outside the EU as well these days, I do have to unfortunately leave my fingerprints somewhere. But US is still out of the picture. Never trust a country that wants to take 10 of your fingerprints just because you enter the country. Who the hell are you, a criminal? Then passports. We do have biometric passports. We've had them for a couple of years now, 5-10 years, depending on the country. And some of you may know that they were initiated by the airline industry. So it's actually an idea of the airline industry to track, to better prevent terrorism and to track who is who. Oh, and it makes sense. It's okay. I mean, I'm not against the biometric passport per se, but if I could, if I could not have one, that'd be great. I mean, I'm okay that all the other people have one, but I'm not a big fan of that. So when biometric passports came to be, back in Latvia, where I'm from, me and my friend, we decided that we want to fight the system. So we had a small brainstorming meeting, and we looked into possible options to avoid giving up our fingerprints. We came up with a couple of ideas, and top two were to go to a friendly doctor and ask to put both your hands into casts, so like that. And that was top one idea. And top two idea was just to make sure that your fingers are super black. Just, have a painting accident. Because the scanners used by the Latvian government are optical scanners. There are different kinds of scanners. Latvian government uses optical scanners, which means if it's super black, you can't really distinguish between ridges and the rest of the fingertip, so it should be fine. So we decided who is going to do what. My friend went with option number 1, I went with option number 2, and we went to get our passports. My friend got his passport, so he went there. The drawback is not only he didn't have a fingerprint in his passport, he also obviously didn't have a signature. But that's okay. I mean, it's no laughing matter. There are people who legitimately don't have the ability to either provide fingerprints or or sign or use your hands in any way. So I mean, there are people without signature, right? And for such an experiment, it was a wild outcome. So what I did for method number 2, I mixed some cyanoacrylate with black marker ink. So I disassembled black marker, put in some cyanoacrylate, which is a basis for super glue, and just dumped my fingers in there. I had black hands, some splashes, perfect. So I go there, and I don't know, I was bad at social engineering back then. It was like, I think, almost 10 years ago. I was bad at social engineering, so yeah, the lady just says, well, yeah, come back in a week or a month or whatever. Wherever you can, scan your fingers. I tried telling them, well, but I have like a trip or something, which I didn't. But yeah, it didn't work. They basically sent me home. Maybe if I would have complained higher up, it would have worked. Sometimes it does, but it didn't back then. So that's for passports. There is another story about Latvian passports. Initially, as I just told you, they didn't require fingerprint. They did require fingerprint, and they were going to store it only in passports. At least that's what the law allowed. Then, through the grapevine, I heard that there's a huge database being built by the government of all the fingerprints, which I inquired about through official channels. I sent an official letter to Ministry of Interior asking about that stuff. And what happened is, well, they were preparing the answer, and in the background, they were trying to create a new law, super hastily, the biometric database law or something. So, ta-da, now it is legal to store the hash of fingerprints in a database. Well, that's where we are. What happened later is, at that point, I suspected that even though they, in the written reply, they promised me that they're only storing the hash of fingerprints, I suspect they actually store the full fingerprint. So what's the difference there? Yes?
But how is it different if they have an encryption key to this hash is basically equal to storing the fingerprints?
No, I'm not. The hash. Hash is a one-way function. That's the difference. And I was just going to tell you about the difference. So, okay, we have a hash which cannot be reversed, right? So what is the difference practically for a fingerprint? Well, what is the security or the privacy concern here? The privacy concern here is that if I happen to be too politically active, and I am politically active, I actually spend 1/3 of my time doing political lobbying and activism like that. If you happen to do the wrong things, what could stop a crooked cop of taking your fingerprint and putting it on a dead body somewhere, and then asking you to the scene and asking, why the hell have you killed that guy? Having a hash prevents that, because you cannot reconstruct the fingerprint. Fingerprint hashes is actually not like a cryptographic hash. They just look at some specific patterns. If you look at your finger, you have these ovals, and you have the points where lines intersect. So only storing those points. So you do not store the actual lines between, and then you can prove that it's been faked because the line doesn't match. Well, I have strong suspicion that what they're actually doing is they're still storing the whole damn fingerprint in the database. I actually requested mine already. I think it was more than a year ago. I requested my fingerprint from the database. They sent it to me, gave it to me on a CD. I haven't had time to look at it. I should have done that, but I haven't done that. And but from talking to some contacts, I feel like that's what I'm going to find. I'm going to find just a picture of my fingerprint. How else would you convey it to a user? Because under GDPR, you have to have access to your own data. By the way, Latvia has had GDPR for the past 18 years already, national version of GDPR. So we're cool like that. Okay, moving on. Banks. We're still in Europe, right? So banks know what you buy. Anyone has a bank card here? Anyone doesn't use a bank card? I don't. So what I do is I buy a prepaid card at a corner shop. The limit is 150 euros, so you can't really do anything much with it. But for small expenses when traveling to non-Eurozone countries, it works. It works for me. Yes?
Can you buy prepaid payment cards in
Yes.
wherever? Really? I didn't know this.
Well, in Latvia you can. I don't know about other countries. It's MasterCard.
Okay.
Yeah.
I never saw anything.
Well, I can buy you one. I don't know if it's legal. I can, but I mean, it is a gift card, so I suppose I can gift it to you. That's the point. And the US has it as well. So many of you don't think about this, but I believe you don't think about that because you don't feel comfortable thinking about it. But do think about that. It's fun. I mean, of course, through normal transactions, banks don't see what you buy, but banks have been making payments so easy. You have contactless payments. Now you can pay with a mobile phone just by putting it on the sensor. The payments are so easy that it's not a hassle anymore just to go buy a pack of chewing gum, right? Go buy a pack of condoms. Go buy a vibrator, just one, not a whole bunch. So just by looking at the name of the shop and the sum, it is possible to deduce these things. And then, of course, we have anti-money laundering regulations that would also allow the government to get access to that data if they find that something is suspicious. What a separate research has actually found is that when banks have obligation to report something to the government, they over-report. They report more than they need to. For example, Latvia recently passed a law that if you have more than 15,000 euros coming into your account over a period of 1 year, they have to report how much money did you have in January and how much money do you have in December. According to research which was not done in Latvia, in this situation, bank would over-report. It would include some other information, like how many transactions you had or what are the transactions. Because it's not a crime to report more data to the government. GDPR explicitly doesn't apply to what government does as long as it's properly legislated. Okay, still EU, but let's look at something less realistic. Online, the internet, right? Being sarcastic here, because of course these days everyone knows that internet is a part of life. We don't have a separate internet anymore, which I'm a bit saddened by, of course. So online profiling is happening. Every time you go on a web page, you get tracked, you get analyzed, and people know what you're interested in. They know what you do. They know if you're gonna commit suicide or not. They know your most secret thoughts. Luckily, the EU fixed that problem in May 2011. So what they did is they mandated all the web pages to have this banner here. So, good job. Well, not quite. Didn't work. EU fixed that again in May 2018. What they did then is they mandated all the web pages to have this banner here. We are updating our privacy policy. Tra-la-la, sounds good. What pisses me off the most about these settings is that they make the other button to be so hard to reach. I mean, the previous message you didn't have to have different button, you just had to be informed. This one actually needs to give the user permission, ability to decline permission. But instead of having the button no here, it's you press review settings, then you press no. Or in some cases I've seen you press review settings, then you have a list a list of 150 advertisers, and you have to click each one, and then you can press Save Settings. There are some good examples, though. If we look at it in 2019, there are some web pages that do it properly, and you have two different buttons where you can actually press OK or press Decline. So we are working towards the goal, but this is not a solution. This is just some bullshit. It doesn't work, so we haven't fixed that as well. Okay. We all, of course, know that everything I've been telling you so far is really not important. We're here to make business, we're here to make money, and everyone knows that privacy is for criminals anyway, so you don't have to hide anything if you're not a criminal, right? Wrong. 1 year ago, before GDPR came into effect, by the way, congratulations, today I think is exactly 1 year after GDPR. Politico published an article, Privacy is Power. It's quite a short one, but it's interesting one. I actually included a couple of quotes from it directly. Point 1. What is privacy? Privacy is power dynamics between the individual, the state, and the market. That is what privacy is about. And as the recent scandals have illustrated so vividly, privacy is also about the autonomy, dignity, and self-determination of people. And the third one, data protection must seek to mitigate the inherent power imbalance between parties and those between people and those that collect, process, and profit of their data. So that's what we've had. That's where we've arrived. A year ago, most of Europe and the rest of the world still, of course, did not have any leverage to try and mitigate this power imbalance, because businesses had found a good way to make money and stay profitable without actually charging anyone anything. And that has led to some quite serious consequences for all of us. So the second half of my presentation is a bit different. I'm gonna talk about my personal privacy choices. And as you might have understood, privacy is super important to me. And I've spent past almost 10 years now zealously fighting for privacy. So we're gonna see the choices. Some of the slides will have a red line going through them. That means I have considered the choice, but I've decided it costs too much for me to actually implement this privacy feature. So I haven't done that, or I have abandoned it. Okay, let's go then. Operating system. I used Windows 98, still when I used Windows. And then at one point I decided I should use Ubuntu Linux, because it's cool. Well, then this thing happened, right? You had this central search bar in Ubuntu Linux. You could search for files there, like my report or my super secret document about contract, blah, blah, blah. And what Ubuntu did, they uploaded this to their Amazon servers and provided you with suggestions what to buy. So you had a central search for your local files and online content, and it kind of sucked. Afterwards, they made some more terrible privacy choices, Ubuntu, I mean. So I didn't wait for those. When this happened, I switched to Linux Mint, which is Ubuntu, but privacy conscious. The cost for this choice for me is slower software updates. So since Mint is a sub-fork of Ubuntu, that means I have to wait for Ubuntu people to push packages and then Mint people to reapprove packages or remake packages if they touch upon privacy. So that's my cost. Software updates come to me slower. Then, yeah, question. Come again?
If you use Debian and you put the...
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Yeah, that makes sense, because using Debian makes sense, because Ubuntu is a fork of Debian, of course.
Yes.
But Ubuntu... Oh yes, but Ubuntu does add a bunch of features that make it much more user-friendly. I mean, I would be okay with Debian. Before using Ubuntu, actually, I was using Slackware 3.0 on my desktop. Then I tried to switch to laptop, and I understood that it's hell to use Slackware 3.0 on the laptop back in 2000 and something. So that's when I switched to Ubuntu. But yes, Debian is correct. But if you like Ubuntu interface, then Mint is the way to go. Thank you for that. So the next thing is browsing habits. Before I had Adobe Flash allowed. Anyone still has browsers, their main browser that runs Flash? No? Oh, well, I had. I also had JavaScript allowed. And nowadays, I don't have JavaScript allowed. I only have some sites that are excluded from that exception, from that rule. And most other sites to me look like that. Yeah, that's how they look to me. It's just a white page. Yes?
It's gonna get worse. It's gonna get you're gonna see more sites like this.
Yes, yes. Unless you developers go there and read my 2-minute presentation on how to properly create JavaScript-free sites. I add a no-script tag. That's why it's there. Okay, so I don't wait for it to load. So yes, my cost is that my choice of online services is severely limited. I have to go to the more expensive internet shop just because it works. Or I have to risk my privacy and execute unknown, unsigned code on my computer. Then we have some more stuff, browsing habits. So this is a real, thing. I didn't do anything. This is from my normal computer. First try. I just tried to get reCAPTCHA going. I tried to go through it, so that's how it works. It asks me, it happens a lot. I mean, usually it's not 2 minutes like here. Usually it's about 30 seconds, but it's still annoying as hell. And oh yeah, there we go, it worked. So yeah, and I think that may be because of my cookie settings, because I don't store any cookies. I only have temporarily first-party cookies. So when Google sees me, random user agent, no cookies, nothing, no JavaScript, hey, must be a bot. By the way, this one here, as you see, is with JavaScript. Usually it's even harder. You after every captcha, you copy and paste a confirmation text into a box. So it would take, instead of 2 minutes, like 5 or 6 minutes. So reCAPTCHA hates me. That's the cost there. Emailing. I used HTML. Now I don't. So people that receive my emails hate me. They look at me with expression that is somewhere between anger, bewilderment, and confusion, and ask, why the hell don't you use proper emails? Why don't you have anything underlined? Why do you have bold text? Why don't you have 5 different sizes of fonts? Why isn't it pink? Can you even write emails? So, but that's how I roll. So that's the cost, but it's much more secure, especially, of course, for receiving emails. Sending is okay. Well, not really. You all remember the Thunderbird bug. I think it was for PGP, was it? Where when you reply to an encrypted email, it was possible that the email had some hackings included that would decrypt the text that was only addressed to you. So it does have its problems. So having no HTML support is, of course, safer. Same as not using JavaScript. Then, if I write an email to a Gmail person, how I call them, then it always ends up in spam for the first time. When they click it's okay, but the first email always goes in spam. So I've learned that over the years. I always phone them and say and tell them, I've sent you the first email, please go to spam, it's there, and it's always there. I know some of you will tell, yeah, you have to set up everything properly. I have done that. There was a security conference today. I talked about that to one of my peers, and yeah, he's also running his own server, and he confirms it's the same problem. And he's also a professional, a network professional with 20 years of experience, same as me. So nothing you can do. That's how Google does it. I actually spoke to a Google person after one of my presentations like that, and it turns out that how they do their spam filtering is by /24. So even though the IP address that I use for my own personal email server was mine forever, since it was assigned from RIPE to local internet registry and directly to me, no one has used it ever. But because they do it by /24, and I've run some security experiments from other IP addresses in my /24, I'm a bad guy now, and stuff goes into spam. Okay, let's talk about communication a bit more. Phone. I did have a Siemens CX65 before I started worrying about privacy. It was a feature phone. It had color screen. You could have some games and apps in there. It was quite cool. Then I moved to Nokia 3330. I still kind of use it. I mean, I don't have it with me here. In Latvia, I always have it with me. The problem of switching from a proper smartphone these days to Nokia, to the old Nokia, is you won't have any properly encrypted communication. So what you'll have is, why did I do that? What you have, this is actually my phone, by the way. What you'll have is you will have the security, that the feeling that no one is intercepting your conversations in real life, right? So I have my phone here, for example. I'm talking to you, and I'm relatively certain that if it's the only phone in the room, then no one is listening to our conversation. The problem with that is, of course, it's not the only phone in the room. Not just because my other peer, in this case you guys, have their phones with them, but also because I, of course, want properly encrypted communications. So I also carry my iPhone with me, which defeats the purpose of having this guy. So even though I still carry it, but that's just because I don't have possibility to enter 2 SIM cards into my iPhone. So that's something I did for, I think, 10 years almost, but now I've abandoned that one. Mobile apps. So I did start to worry about privacy, as you see from the previous slide, before I got my first smartphone. So there's no before here. But since I've been using them, I don't give apps any permissions. No GPS permission, no contacts, no microphone, camera. If there is some reason for the app to have the permission, I give it to it. For some apps, I even turn it on and off sporadically. Right? For example, some chat app access to my photos only when I need to save it and I can't copy it through the clipboard. But usually I just set stuff up properly. Well, so the cost is some apps don't work at all. They just say, okay, I'm not going to work. Like here, for example, here some apps Socratic, right? It says Socratic needs to access your contacts, and then they can add custom text message. So what developers did, they said, don't worry, it's okay. It's only for chatting, but homework. There's no security or privacy implications to that. So, and when you obviously click don't allow over here, right? What you get is this. Sorry, no spam, we promise. So it's all cool. There's also this app that I've been using that just recently gone bad. So this is how Taxify or Bolt looks for me. I mean, I can press here and I can still use it. They don't take my card. I'm going to talk about that later, my prepaid card. But I can still use it with cash. But looky here. I can't press that button, so I can't access my history. I can't change my settings. I can't do anything. It just doesn't work. If anyone works in Bolt here or knows anyone that works, tell them to fix that stuff. It was okay a year ago. But mostly I will be stuck about 10 years ago when there were no smartphone apps, because many of them will just not work. Social networks. I did use Facebook. I was on Facebook actually. And I was using IRC as well. So what happened with Facebook is I realized that it's hard to control stuff over there. I heard that they have become better and better now, but historically it was problematic. So what would happen is some pictures would pop up on Facebook, and my friends, it was before the algorithm, presumably before it was public at least, my friends would zealously tag me in all the pictures, like this is the guy, that's the guy, that's the guy. All I could do in my settings is prevent that info to appear on my feed or profile or wherever. It would immediately appear everywhere else. So what I had to do is actually I had to devote time every day to go into Facebook and untag myself. There was no setting just to prevent that, so I quit that stuff. What I do now is I use XMPP, I use Wire, which is one of the most secure communication apps in my opinion, even though it's not really, the user experience is not the best. But security is top notch. And I use Twitter. I use Twitter because Twitter doesn't bullshit you. Twitter, the default settings are that if you put stuff on there, everyone sees it. You're not in denial that I'm protected, my stuff is private. You put it there for people to see. I just moderate myself and try not to put personal stuff on Twitter. So the cost is, of course, social exclusion and limited social circle. There's a party. It's going to be on Facebook, obviously. Luckily, I have super good friends, and most of them invite me personally, which is a plus. I feel like a VIP. I get SMS or a call, hey, there's a party. Sometimes they forget, and then I get a call a day after, oh, sorry, I forgot. But that's the cost. So I thought, I got to re-socialize. Yes, there's a question.
You mentioned what happened to IRC.
Oh yes, so IRC was not encrypted at the time when I was making the decision, so I moved to XMPP. Now most IRC servers support encryption. Now it's not a problem, but then again, of course, still everything is visible on server. It's not end-to-end, even though you can do fancy stuff as OTR over IRC. So I moved to XMPP, and thank you for the question, because XMPP is an interesting story. I actually used XMPP to communicate with all my friends. I was super included, because I could nicely connect to all the people using, is it Google Talk, Gtalk, or something like that. It just worked. And then the bad open source guys decided that stuff is insecure. We're gonna force that all XMPP peering operators need to have a certificate or something. And Google didn't care enough about that feature, and I couldn't chat with them anymore. So that's what happened with IRC and then XMPP for me. Right, afterwards I decided that I should re-socialize, that I should actually try and reconnect to all the people. So what I did is I installed all the apps. But immediately when installing them, I was feeling super uneasy. So I have a unique phone number, which is not really a phone number for every app that I use that requires a phone number. Which is, by the way, why am I such a huge fan of Wire? Because you don't need a phone number for Wire to register. So I'm using fake phone numbers. I go to a conference, let's say in Tallinn, Serbia, other countries, and I buy a prepaid card if it's possible. Some countries actually try to ask for a passport when you buy a prepaid card. I managed to stop that legislation in Latvia. Funnily enough, the police agreed with me. The revenue service was pushing the legislation, and they weren't apparently far-sighted enough. The police agreed with me that I had a bunch of arguments, but the one that worked was, of course, that we're just going to have black market cards from Estonia, and it's going to be even worse because now they can at least track it locally with a local video surveillance feed. So the cost is either you get this stuff or you get account takeover, right? So the phone numbers are going to expire because they are not in use, and other people are going to get to use them, and then they will take over your account. The solution to that is, of course, having a lock PIN that locks down your account to you, even if someone steals your phone number, which is not a phone number in this case. And I've been doing that for the past 6 months, the PIN thing, and all the apps do this stuff. Have you not forgot your PIN? I'd love to forget it. I will never need it. I mean, if the stuff dies, I will register a new account. I will not move it anywhere. I don't need it. I just put it there so my account is not portable. That's the whole point, but I get that all the time. Now, the next thing, other people's apps. That's a different story. So even though I have my own apps, my own security profiles, I have permissions set to as limited as possible, I can't really control what other people do. And they install stuff, and then they have this WhatsApp here, and they press on, oh, okay, I mean, and all this is made so, some of you may be UX designers here, right? All of this is made so it flows as best as possible. So a person is trying to access their email, or in this case, they're trying to install an app. They want to get the app working, so, okay, I want to get it to work, okay. So that's how it's designed, by design. And most of my friends have pressed OK here. And if they have my phone number in their phone book, well, that's a problem for me. So one solution that I tried to implement a bit was private caller ID. So if I call someone from my personal phone, there is no phone number showing up on their end, which is not that I don't want them to have my phone number. I don't want the apps to have my phone number on their side. So that kind of worked, but still my friends need to have my personal number because I have my work number. And I have my personal number, right? And how I have configured it is that the people not in my contact list do not get sound when they are calling me. But still, it's not really a solution. I have to give my phone number to my friends. So if you have a solution for that, let me know. Yes.
Question: can you ask Facebook with GDPR to kindly delete your phone number?
Yes, I could do that. It might end up blocking the guy's account who has uploaded it illegally, because here in terms of service it says that you only press OK if you have permission from all your people in your phone book. And once again, the same terms of service also means that after they comply with my request, the next person who will press OK here will give my permission again. So, yeah. Okay.
Sorry?
Yeah.
What bothers me is that WhatsApp is actually praised frequently for their privacy because they use pretty good encryption, but yeah, you cannot use it without sharing your contacts.
Yes, and most of apps are like that. Wire is one of the exceptions. I actually, when I do training on communication security, I have a slide with a bunch of social apps, and I mark them. So color red is for non-end-to-end encrypted apps, like IRC, for example, or Facebook Messenger. And then there's color green, which indicates it is end-to-end encrypted. But I have a separate color yellow reserved for WhatsApp, because even though it is end-to-end encrypted, and even though technologically it operates in exactly the same way as either Telegram or Signal, one of those doesn't do address book minimization properly. The problem is it's owned by Facebook, so and it's their business model, and you have metadata and all that stuff. Right. Photos. I loved both taking photos and being in a photo. Now, these days I'm always the photographer. I'm not in the photo. And it's sometimes hard for people to understand. Why is that? I mean, I'm okay to be standing here and having my talk recorded because that's what I do. I'm a public speaker. I'm here consensually, and I know where the video is going to end up. It's going to be public, right? But if I'm at a private event, standing here posing with a person with a helmet on in a strange pose, I don't want that to end up on social media or in the press later on. So I don't feel okay with that. So one thing I considered when I had that Facebook incident, when I ended up deleting my account, was, well, I mean, we had that privacy law since 2001 or 2002 in Latvia. I could have went against the people who upload my stuff and tag me, but you don't sue your friends. That's not something you do. So I didn't have an option, so I just deleted my account. And in the long term, I decided that it's easier just not to allow your photo to be taken. Because it's much easier not to have the photo than to explain to the person, when you're going to send this photo to your PR department, you have to let them know that it can't be on Facebook, only on other stuff, and they will forget. So, no photos. Easy as that. Then, of course, separate slide for GDPR. I mentioned that already more times than I've already that I wanted. But so what happened before I turned to privacy? Companies were mishandling my data a lot. And I told you that we've had a similar law, national law, for quite some time. So now companies, I'm not only talking about 2018, for the past more than 5 years, they've been telling me that they're not mishandling my data. So that's the change, basically. I don't know if they really are abiding by the law and not doing bad stuff, but at least they write me, oh, sorry, everything is okay. Sorry, we generated your email address randomly. The cost is quite large here, actually. I calculated it's approximately 3,000 euros a year in my lost productivity pursuing these cases. I do it myself because I liked it. Now I don't anymore. So now I'm looking for a good and cheap lawyer to cover that for me. But I do these cases myself, and it does take quite a lot of time. So what I usually do is, for example, when I get spam, in Latvia, obviously the old law was replaced by GDPR a year ago, but we have some more laws regarding spam and some smaller laws that only talk about some subset of what you can do with data. So in the law on spam says that you can't send spam, and if you're going to send more than 10 spam messages during the course of a year, then we're going to prosecute you. So there's this magical number between 1 and 9 where it's kind of not allowed, but no one does anything. So I have two recourse options there. I get a spam email. I press unsubscribe, and this only applies to Latvian companies because I don't have the money to go to China every time to sue those guys. So I press unsubscribe, and then I wait. If a second email comes, then I wait for 8 more emails. If they stop coming and I don't get to 10 within a year, what I do is I call them up and I ask them to provide information about me. Where do they get the data, what data they have, and so on. And usually they just ignore the request. Then I go to their offices with an official letter with my signature in person, asking the same stuff. And then they kind of look puzzled, but they accept the letter. Of course, I'm super polite because you can't be impolite when you do that. You're an asshole anyway for doing that, so you at least have to be polite. So I go there, they accept it, and then they disappear. They have 30 days to answer, no answer. So then I go to the Data Protection Authority, and then they screw them over majorly. So that's how I teach people not to spam. The other option is if they do, if they do send 10 emails, then then there's an automatic fine, and I don't even have to talk to them. I go to the Data Protection Authority immediately, and they get canned for sending too much spam. Right. Visitors to my house. Before I became privacy conscious, I had a bunch of friends coming to my house and checking into my home. So I have this guy coming in and asking me, where is the Snapchat, Logchat, what was the tool? Where's the Foursquare check-in point for your apartment? I don't understand what the hell he's talking about. He explains to me, I tell him, no, I don't have one. He says, no problem, I'll create one for you. So I politely ask him to create one like 200 meters away and do it over there, which he does. And that kind of opened my mind, and I understood, okay, only trusted friends come to my place now. So now I have like maybe eight people that come to my apartment. The rest don't know where I live. Because that's crazy. So there's a problem, because every time I go to a trip, I bring a bottle back, and I don't have space for those anymore, because I don't drink almost. I drink only during winter and just a bit. So yeah, I would invite you to drink it all, but I can't tell you where I live.
But you can, on the next talk, you can...
Oh, bring it here, reverse wording, that's good. Okay, loyalty cards. So I did register some loyalty cards with real data. I was smart enough to not provide my real phone number, I think, but I did actually end up in one of the leaks. One Latvian company had their loyalty card database leaked. They just published it on a web server as an Excel document. So what I do now, I provide fake data. I don't know about Estonia, but in Latvia it seems okay, unless you are providing that to the government or some other quite specific companies. They can't really go and sue you if you provide fake data, as long as it's really fake, not someone else's data. The problem is I can't legally request anything about me. Now that everyone has GDPR, I could submit a request and ask what do they know about me, but I can't request anything because I'm not me. I also used cloned cards, which is, I also think, legal, not for banking cards for sure, but for loyalty cards easily. So we have like one loyalty card for 10 people, and no, it's all the same number, and we just cash in on points. So it's kind of cool. Speaking of cards, public transport. We've had these paper-based discount tickets. So back when all of this happened back when I was a student. So this is 2007 and 8, when we still had these paper tickets. You buy it and you show it together with your student ID. This thing here, I don't know what it does. I actually never scanned it. But even if it's unique, you don't have to check it in anywhere unless someone comes to check it. So that's how it is. Now we have these things, and you have these in Tallinn as well. And if you still want to use paper tickets, you can use paper tickets. Here you could ride the whole month for 10 lats, which is 11 lats, which is about 15 euros. 30 days you can ride wherever you want. Here 2 euros per one ride. So I mean the date has changed as well a bit, but I mean it's only 7 years. So the increase here is about 7 times compared to that. But right now, if you have this thing here, your photo goes here, your name goes here, your personal code, personal ID goes over there. If you have one of these things, you can ride for 30 cents. So that's where the increase in cost comes from. 30 cents for a student, or 2 euros if you want to use a paper ticket as a cost. And in Riga, the system was implemented, I think, around the same time when Tallinn had a discussion about having free rides for everyone in Tallinn. And I was jealous. I was looking at Tallinn thinking, damn, we are doing this crap, and they get to ride free, because me and my friends actually did some calculations, and it turned out that it's almost the same financially to implement this system, which costs like 2 million per year, plus the implementation cost tens of millions, I think. It's almost the same as to add all the remaining passengers to the free riding scheme and just allow them to go in wherever they want. But then I came to Tallinn, and it turns out that you have to check in every time, even though you have free rides. So you're still trackable. What the hell, Tallinn? What's the point of that? Now, banking. Yeah. But you can use sensors. You can use sensors for the public transport. You can count people. These company Axis, they even have special software and special add-ons for counting people.
And it was 100 million.
Also, Tallinn actually has microphones in their cameras in the public transport, which sucks totally. I would have said that, but now for the past 60 days, we've had the same in Latvia. All the public transport has the stickers that say, danger, not danger, warning, we are recording your video. They have been replaced with warning, we are recording your video and audio. I haven't seen any mics yet, but the stickers are already being replaced. So it baffles me that they'll record audio on the public transport. I mean, I feel uneasy enough that I can't work on my confidential documents because of all the cameras when I'm in the public transport. That's why I love trains and airplanes even more, because they don't have cameras. So banking, I touched on that a bit already. So I was being paid via wire transfer and using banking card to shop. That's how I did things. Now I'm being paid in cash. Latvia is actually one of the countries in the EU that legally has cash as a default currency for getting paid. As an employee, unless you agree, you and your employer agrees that you get paid through bank, you have to get paid in cash. But that's just law and me. All the other country just works normally, right, digitally. But it's still in there. We are facing some serious challenges right now with the banking sector trying to remove this part of the law. But for now, it's still there, and I'm getting paid in cash. I do still have my accounts, but mostly just for storing money. I don't really use them, and I use prepaid cards. So there's a story about my gold customer status. I don't know why is that. Either because of my assets or the amount of money. I got a message some time ago that I'm a gold customer. Yay! So VIP of a bank. So that's kind of cool because I get my own personal not assistant but personal bank representative. Always the same person. She even understood why I don't want my passport copied in the bank, so that was all cool with us. We could arrange things there. So one time I need to do something in the bank, and I don't need to go to her. I need to do some cash stuff in the bank. So I go to the bank and I say, I'm a gold customer. Where's my VIP privileges? One of which is you get ahead of the line. You have a separate line for gold customers. And the nice lady says, of course, no problem, sir. Just swipe your card over here and you're going to get your ticket number. I tell them I don't have a card with you. And she's super confused, obviously. But then she says, oh, OK, well, then you have to wait. No problem. So that's really not usable there. Booking flights and hotels is a problem. Thank you to my friends that allow me to use their cards to do that. It's super hard. I mean, if you wouldn't wanna save money so much, you could of course use these local travel agencies where you can go and pay hard cash. Yes.
So your friends in Nigeria, I suppose.
Yes, my friends in Nigeria and Estonia. I have a Nigerian email address that I write from to my friends in Estonia. So I never managed to rent a car because for some reason they always require a card. But I think that should be doable. There are some companies in the US, there are a lot of them, in Europe a bit less, where you can rent it just by being a good person. And Taxify blocks all my cards. As soon as I add my prepaid card, they block it. And those bastards, they only tell you that it's blocked when you order your ride. So imagine you had a new card like a week ago. Now you have to catch your plane that departs at 4 a.m. You're there ordering your taxi at 3 a.m. and it says, sorry, this card doesn't work. Please add another card. So I kind of managed somehow with different taxi, or friends again, really good friends, that just take me to the airport middle of the night. So Taxify app says buy a new enter a new card. So what I do when I return, I buy a new card. I enter that, and the same stuff happens again. So I've spent money because the card isn't free. Added a new card, it still doesn't work. I talk to their support, they say, no problem, sir. I mean, there's a solution for everything these days. So apparently, all you need to do is register on Instagram. Okay, you didn't have to do that. But you need to send a selfie and a copy of your ID, and then it's going to work. So I told them, I would register on Instagram to do that. That's not why I'm here. I want to use a taxi. So we are not on speaking terms for now with Taxify, unfortunately. And for CCTV. I actually have considered wearing a mask. We don't have, as far as I know, any, or at least too much, facial recognition cameras, but we do have video cameras, and I don't really feel like getting my face recorded just for the fun of it. So what I think is I could wear a mask. I actually do ride a motorcycle, and when it's colder, I do have a mask underneath my helmet. When it's not that cold, I do still have my helmet on. So sometimes just for convenience, because I don't want to carry it around, I leave it on when I go into the shop. So I know the cost of the decision. Security will challenge you all the time for some godforsaken reason. They will just come to you and bother you, and you can't really hear them in the helmet. So you don't know, you just go. They don't really try to block you, so that's fun. They just leave you okay. There's a cool story about motorcycling actually, and it had to do with camera as well, but it was a speed trap, a camera that registers the speed that you ride with. So we had this botched tender where the government spent a bunch of money on bad contract terms to install first speed traps in Latvia, and me and some other motorcyclists were against that. So we went. We went to protest. What we did was we took our bikes, our full gear, we parked them legally somewhere near, and then we would stage a picnic near the speed trap, just in front of it, and all the pictures were of course not usable. And since those are portable speed traps, there would usually be one single guy sitting in a white van nearby and guarding it, so no one steals it. Since he couldn't see the camera, the speed trap either. What happened is he would usually call security. And what happens then is security arrives, which is one or maximum two guys in security uniforms. They look at us, 10 or 15 motorcyclists in full dresses, and they lock themselves into the white van together with the guy that called them and sit there and wait for us to leave. So that's how that happened. So I mean, if you have a motorcycle helmet, that works. But Latvia, being serious again, actually wanted to ban wearing a mask in public places altogether. The problem with that is they just wanted to ban Muslims, but they didn't want to know that they're racist. So they couldn't really write it in the law, so they said no one can wear a mask. I objected to that heavily. I spent a year working to block that law, and I managed. It's not passed. We can still wear masks. And now when we have CCTVs that recognize his face, at least you have something to protect yourself with. Biometric passwords, right? Passports, I already told about that. So they came after I became privacy conscious, and not giving up your fingerprints is a thing you can do, right? You can live without a document. Well, you get a small fine for it. The question is, how often do you get the fine? I'm not sure about that, but there's like a small fine. Maybe they can fine you every day. I don't know. That would suck. But I mean, if you fine it once, then I think it's okay. So, but the problem is you do not get to travel. You don't have a passport. You can't leave the country, and it's all terrible.
So how are you here?
Oh, do you see the red line on the screen? Okay. Finally, creating photocopies of ID. Have you ever checked in somewhere or bought something and they ask you for your ID to copy it, right? I would just say, yes, of course, you can copy my ID. Well, now I just say, nope, 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 nope. The consequence of that is quite large. I would love to use Revolut or N26, but I haven't found a single person that can authorize my account, because as soon as you want to actually start using it, they ask you to do the selfie ID thing. And I'm not okay with that, because if you think about it, it's a super terrible way to identify yourself online. I can get e-residency in Estonia, I can create a startup, find some nice name there, and I can start verifying people. They will send me their selfies and their IDs. And I can take that database and sign up to Revolut and N26, Taxify, everything. So it's a super bad way to identify who you are online. There are good people getting annoyed. There's this conference in Serbia, Balkan, that I go to every year. They always put me in the same nice hotel. It's a privately owned small hotel. And there's this nice gentleman who always wants to copy my ID. And every year we go through the same conversation, and he doesn't understand. And every year it goes so long that I look at the clock. Well, I don't have a watch, but I mean that I pretend to look at my watch, and and tell him, yeah, conference is starting, I have to go, let's deal with that later. Which is kind of true, because we can't continue that forever, and then he never remembers, and then the next year comes again. I mean, I'm not hiding my identity. Of course, there are places, including hotels, in my opinion, where I show my ID, and they can look at it, they can write down whatever they want from there, as long as it's reasonably needed. I mean, I don't think hotel needs to know how long I am, right? I mean, maybe at the time of booking, but not, I'm already there. My room, my bed is as long as it is, right? So that's happening. Then a hotel in Belgium was a nice story. That actually prompted some additional changes to my ID carrying methods. So clerk in Belgium, I explained to them that it's not allowed to copy IDs by Latvian law. At least at the time it was not. And I showed to him, but he says, no, please give it to me. I want to hold it so I can write it easier. I explained again that there's no copying. He says, yes, no copying. And I give him my ID. And the guy takes my ID and starts fast walking to the back room with my ID. So I panic for a brief moment. I think maybe I should run and get him, but then I think, okay, maybe that will be illegal, I don't know. So I just call the police. The other employees of the hotel notices that I'm calling the police and call the hotel manager. So police didn't come in the end, we didn't need to. The manager talked to the guy, talked to me, and the copy was destroyed. Of course, as you may know, the photocopiers have a hard drive as well, but what can you do? You can't win all the time. So that's what happened. And then there's this one time when I already lost my gold customer status, apparently because my accounts were dormant and I wasn't using them anymore. So I had to get some money from my account, and since I don't have a card, the only way to get money from your account is to go to the bank to get the money. So I went to the bank, and I showed them my ID. And what happened after this one here is that I carry my ID on a leash. It's super effective. If they try to run with it, and they have sometimes, he just held it, and then they notice there's a leash and become red and ashamed. So yeah, I come with my ID on a leash to the bank to withdraw some money from my account, and they say, sir, we need to copy your ID. I tried to ask them why. They said, because the passport copy that we have of yours has expired. I say, yeah, I know, that's the whole point. I don't want you to have a valid copy of my ID. And the law at the time, and still actually says that the bank has to make a copy at certain times. One of these times is when you open an account, or when you do a really large transaction, like 50,000 euros, I think, which was not one of those transactions. And none of the reasons is because the previous document copy has expired. The copy of a document can't even expire because it's not a real document. So it's not a valid reason to copy the ID. So the problem is that banks these days have cut on costs quite heavily. So what they have done is, I was walking around Tallinn a couple months ago, and I wanted to change some money because I was flying from Tallinn to I don't remember where, but to outside Eurozone. So I come into this Swedbank thingy, and I ask them, I want to change some money. And you know what they tell me? This is a cashless branch. I mean, I don't have an account in Estonia, but I would be super concerned, guys. I mean, you give bank your cash, and then they say, sorry, there's no cash in our bank. Where is your cash, guys? So, and the other thing that's happening, at least in Latvia with banks, is they're optimizing costs in other ways, and they're closing down at 5, most of them. So obviously I have to work sometimes. So I arrive at the branch like 20 minutes to 5, which is generous enough to grab the cash. We ended up staying there, so bank closed at 5. We stayed there almost until 8. And yeah, I was called bad names because we couldn't really, you know, the lawyers, the bank lawyers were gone, no one to call, problem, hard situation. Yeah. And they actually wanted to scan the card, not copy it. I even, in the end, I mean, in the middle of these 3 hours, I said, okay, let's copy it. So then let's copy it, but I'll follow you. So then I look where she puts the card, and she tries to put in a scanner. I say, so hold on, why are you trying to scan it? Yeah, but you told me I can copy it. Yeah, but not scan it. I mean, you might think I'm just being an asshole here, but there's a difference from security perspective. If you get a copy, I mean, barring any hard drives in the copy machine, you will write on it, this copy has been handed at that date to this specific institution. And then they will have to work with Photoshop to remove that if they want to steal your identity. If you scan it, you can't write anything on the scan anymore. So that's also a huge thing. Right, I think it's time to kind of wrap this up. So the final tally for personal privacy. There is a social toll for staying private. And it includes some challenges in communication. It includes disapproval by your peers and society as a whole. Most people don't understand why privacy is a thing. They think it's a thing of the past. Privacy is dead, right? Your social circle is quite limited. You have some apps that you can use, other apps that you're not going to use. You don't invite friends to come to your place so much anymore. Of course, financial toll. Your choices online will be limited. You will be limited to more expensive stuff. For example, if you want to actually book a flight, an expensive flight that doesn't go into 150 euros that you can use from the prepaid card, you will have to use a travel agent, for example, right? Or you have no JavaScript and you have to use a more expensive site that have... Actually, I learned recently that all you have to do in modern sites is check a checkbox that says provide JavaScript-free stuff to the client. So you have to use those sites where people have done that, but they have sacrificed their server capability for people being able to use Visual JavaScript. Of course, also technological toll. So there's much more time needed to do the same things. Remember reCAPTCHA, for example, right? Access to new tech is limited. I would love to play around with Siri or even maybe this Alexa Home thingy, but I mean, I'm not stupid, so no. I also can't take part in the IoT craze. There are a bunch of these IoT things. This is kind of, it depends on who you are. I was a programmer some time ago, like almost 20 years ago. And I still can program, I just don't want to do it for money. So what I do when I buy some IoT stuff, I erase it and I flash a self-compiled firmware somewhere from GitHub that I have reviewed. So I can kind of be part of that, but not in a reasonable and easy fashion. Of course, I also don't have access to my own data if I use a fake identity to register somewhere. And international travel is limited if you decide to stay off passports with fingerprints and stuff like that. So altogether, the final tally for personal privacy is priceless. The question is here, of course, what can we do to change that? If I have managed to convince you that there is something we need to do to change that. First point, convince legislators. That's what I've been doing. I failed miserably for the copyright directive. Latvia is the only one of 3 Baltic states where majority of MEPs voted for the directive. Sorry, guys. But I did punish them. I did try to punish them these elections. Didn't work. Still, same bad guys were elected. Too bad. But I'll still continue lobbying. But for those of you that cannot lobby, you have Facebook, right? Or at least Twitter. Complain loudly on social media. Or if you want to learn to lobby, I have a presentation on lobbying that you can watch how to get started if you think that's something that might be useful to you. If you're a developer, please develop privacy-conscious systems. Many of the things discussed here are results of bad choices or let's say poor privacy choices, bad motivation by the company and by the developers. If you're not a developer, demand developers to do that. Go to their bug trackers, submit bugs while they are, until they get annoyed about that. And you can't be complicit. You have to stand up for yourself, for your rights, for the rights of privacy, and you have to lead by example. When you do that, when you stand up for yourself, you will also protect those around you that don't have a voice, and you will also be able to inspire other people to go and protect their privacy. Thank you.
We still have a little bit of time for questions.
I have a question. What is your name?
My,
You have not told- not-
yeah, I haven't told that.
Maybe you stole or Assange.
Yes, that's who I am.
You know, and
Um,
whole presentation you provided, you know, some hacks.
Yes.
No leaks. You know. Do you don't think that you will be very cautious right now for the government agencies while you do this? The second question is, what is the output of all your activities at the moment? Do you think that, for example, these hacks which you actually provided are not compliant, for example, with controlling securities on hardware, whether, for example, through Cisco or through Juniper, through this concentrators, routers, and so on?
Okay, I understood 1.5 questions. I will get back to the network part later on. So my name is Kirils Solovjovs. It's right there. Do follow me on Twitter. It's all English. I love followers. Go follow me. I want to have lots of followers. So I do tweet a lot about security and privacy. That's me. That's actually my picture. That's a self-portrait that I took while I still had more hair. At least here, if not here. Now, second part of the question: what's the impact of all that? I didn't catch the part about why do you think that might be connected to networking equipment at all. But the impact, well, there is some impact, but it's mostly, what I learned is that the impact is mostly from lobbying, not from individual cases. So I've tried to do it this way. I've tried to take separate instances to court of people doing bad things, of government doing bad things. I won in some cases. What happens is they just punish the lowest guy possible and nothing changes in the system. So that's when I learned that lobbying is the way, and that's how you do. Here, of course, as you rightly asked in your first question, I feel the subtext was that I'm not in the position to be the one who needs protection like that. I'm a public speaker. My name is out there. You type my name in Google. There are 30 videos that you can find. Actually, if you type my name in Google, in some countries it will automatically switch to videos because there are more videos of me than other stuff. But I do control the amount of photos that are online of me. I control them quite drastically. So it's not for me. It's for you guys and other people who cannot protect themselves. That's who I'm fighting for.
But you don't think that it's a real world, it's impossible right now. As for example, if you socially active in business, for example, or in social life, it's impossible because your position, you know, is position of anarchist and escapist, which should, you know, destroy all documents, to put all your data out of network or government officials.
Okay.
Go to the woods, live there.
Going to the woods is my plan for retirement. Yes, that's true. Just don't come visit, please.
So there was another question.
I just have one remark that I want to say. You mentioned some payment services that require ID, and that I would say that you actually cannot request people to send like selfies or IDs if you just have a company, because GDPR itself would not allow it. You need to have a good reason first. And
yeah.
The reason why this company asks you to do it is not because they want it, because they have to themselves, because they also have legislation that they have to follow, which is anti-money laundering legislation. And if they don't have the license to conduct these activities at all. So that's not the company themselves would actually probably want to do. And of course, they also controlled and subject to compliance checks and audits under the GDPR as well.
Okay.
They cannot store it longer than it's supposed to be.
That's an important point, and I think I'll repeat it for the recording as well. So what you're saying is that the companies that are asking for your selfie and ID don't do that because they want to, but because the law requires them to.
Not only because
I would object to that, because the companies do that out of business necessity. They don't want to pursue alternative methods that they have according to the law. For example, for Latvia and Estonia, they could simply ask that I send them digitally signed documents saying account number blah 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 is my account, that's me, bam, done. But they don't want to implement that for every country separately because we don't have proper ADAS isn't really working. There are other ways. They could send someone to my home. They could have an office in every city where I could go and show my ID. There are other ways, and GDPR comments actually provide quite clearly that unless there are other ways, you shall not take photos of the ID. And there are other ways in this case. There was something.
And it's still like, you mentioned 1 or 2 ways, according to this anti-money laundering, you have to have at least 2 documents and then 2 plus 2 rule, and then you have to have 2 proven facts that these documents are actually real, and this person is real. So therefore, without enormous amount of spendings on a you, and maybe you're a VIP client or gold client, it's good when you're like that, but for majority field that's not the case.
For majority companies, exactly, that's business decision. It wouldn't make sense to make business anymore if you provide proper privacy, but that's up to the companies that they do that. But speaking of 2 documents, I have never had any of my banks ask me for 2 documents in person. They just, yeah.
Oh, because because you come in person, and that's a good proof.
Okay.
Also, I wanted to suggest, like, many of the solutions you described are actually about concealing or removing the data, but given that the data generation is inevitable, wouldn't it be actually more efficient to rather like obscure or to shift the data? So instead of wearing the mask, wear like fake mustache and fancy glasses, for example. On the social media, you can use proxies to conceal your real location and instead impersonate it as being somewhere else and using like different transliteration of your name, things like this. This thing won't appear like off from the first sight and you won't cause as much attention, but it still would make much more difficult to identify you as real.
That's where I started. Providing misleading and fake information is one of the ways. And where it doesn't work, I moved to concealing identity or concealing other data. And as you can see from the presentation, there are many aspects where I still provide recommendations to actually provide other data, not concealed entirely.
Anything else? Thank you so much.
Have you ever been to Israel?
No. No, I have not. But
why?
Because they can take out the laptop or mobile phone to the entire research.
US can do the same.
They don't give it back to you like for
yeah. US and Israel are the countries on my list where I don't want to travel. Yes, but I have been to Canada, and the uninformed guy that I am, when going to Canada, I thought, well, it's basically US. So what I did is, I didn't take my laptop with me. I didn't even take any of my phones with me, even the Nokia one. All I had was a digital camera that I borrowed from my relatives. So I come in there with my digital camera. I have filled in my form on the airplane. And I have 2 questions, 2 yes or no questions that I don't understand, right? One of them was, do you have any unaccompanied luggage coming in with you to the country? I look around me sitting in the airplane. Well, there's the checked-in bag. I don't have it here. So I don't know if it's yes or no. So what I do is I go to the lady at the border. There was a lady sitting there. And I hand her the form and explain that I don't know answer to those questions. We should talk about those. And we talk about those. She checks no or yes, I don't remember, on both of those questions. And files the form away. And does something on her laptop. Then I hand her my passport. And she looks at the cover of the passport, gives it back to me and says, you're free to go. So the damn Canadians didn't even look at my passport. And so I don't know if it's a trap for me to come next time with all my stuff unencrypted or what. So basically I overreacted apparently. But yes, I am consciously avoiding the countries that can do that. That can confiscate your laptop, confiscate your stuff. It's a huge invasion of privacy, I think.
You know what is the reason? The reason because you are watching this from the perspective of Roman law. And they have a different system there.
Well, good for them.
They have an English law. And this is different approach, for example, to sue you if you do something bad.
Well, we can see that in UK with the CCTV clearly. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kirils. It was great having you.